Can the United States military-industrial establishment really keep a secret? Consider this. In 1943, the neutral press printed some strange news about an apocalyptic experimental American bomb that had destroyed every living thing on a small island during its first test. The facts as reported were not true, but the rumors were based on concrete data or on the first rare leaks that were coming out concerning the frenzied preparation of the super-secret atomic center at Oak Ridge, a kind of science fiction before the proper time. 2 years later, vague references to unknown, large-scale phenomena, a deafening roar and a column of smoke that had been noted in the desert region of New Mexico, appeared in some Texas and Arizona newspapers. Mass hallucination or a meteor, the military authorities declared brusquely. Then it was learned that precisely at 5:38 a.m. on July 16, 1945, under the code name Trinity, the first American atomic bomb had been detonated on the top of a high steel tower a dozen or so miles from the air base at Alamogordo. We learned of the existence of the A-bomb at the same time the Japanese did, the surprised citizens of the United States exclaimed, and it was perfectly true. These days, rumors abound that this same military-industrial conglomerate has established bases on Mars. Such claims sound like preposterous urban legend nonsense, right? But just like the atomic bomb in 1945, if the defense engineers of those days could build it, would they? Well, of course they did, and in complete secrecy. Now, decades later, here in the dawn of the 21st century, if defense engineers could secretly launch men to Mars, would they? Well, let's examine the evidence, and you decide the answer for yourself. In 2004, filmmaker Cary Conran introduced an imaginative action thriller called Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow. This movie's fanciful plot reveals the crazed dream of a mad German scientist to create his own utopian future called the World of Tomorrow. His twisted plan involved launching a giant rocket filled with all species of animals as well as engineered human genomes, the spawn of a new race of superhumans, into space. Upon reaching 100 kilometers altitude, the rocket was set to ignite the atmosphere and incinerate the Earth. Hollywood fiction, of course, reminiscent of James Bond's Moonraker, another movie plot where a mad villain planned to destroy the Earth while crafting his own perfect civilization out in space. Isn't it strange how life sometimes mimics art? Planet Mars, that diminutive spark of red fire in the night sky that has tantalized the human imagination since time immemorial. The Romans revered Mars as the god of war. Astrologically, Mars is associated with confidence and self-assertion, aggression, sexuality, strength, and ambition. But what is the real truth about the fourth planet orbiting our Sun? What secrets does our neighboring planet await to reveal? By the 19th century, telescope resolution was advanced enough to disclose surface features of the red planet. Italian astronomer Giovanni Schiaparelli claimed seeing the planet lined with grooves or channels, which he mapped. These strange lines became labeled canals, suggesting a vast irrigation system on Mars, which implied that intelligent creatures lived there. Observations by American astronomer Percival Lowell in 1901 further fueled speculation that a Martian civilization had engineered a complex system of canals to distribute water across its arid, barren surface. Such notions inspired the writings of H.G. Wells and his classic tale, War of the Worlds, which envisioned aggressive Martians seeking to escape their dying planet by invading Earth. This Wells novel has made an indelible impression on our modern culture, first as a notorious radio program in 1938 when Orson Welles triggered a public panic by presenting the fictional dramatization as a live news broadcast. Then later, the tale was again refurbished as two major Hollywood movies. And over the years, Mars has remained a popular media subject. Walt Disney advanced theories about manned exploration of Mars back in the 50s. In 1990, Arnold Schwarzenegger played a Martian colonist with amnesia in Total Recall. And Mission to Mars told the plight of astronauts marooned on the Red Planet. Most recently, in 2012, Edgar Rice Burroughs' 1917 science fiction classic, John Carter and the Princess of Mars, finally made its grand Hollywood debut. The romantic ideas of an inhabited Mars have given way to more sophisticated scientific analysis. Since the early 1960s, numerous unmanned probes launched by both American and Soviet space agencies have revealed the red planet to be a desolate, lifeless rock. Its surface temperature is much lower than that of Earth, hardly ever rising above the freezing point of water. Mars may have had surface water in ancient times, but evidence suggests that some major cosmic catastrophe left the planet without an atmosphere capable of sustaining life. The asteroid belt between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter is theorized to be the remains of a planet that was destroyed millions of years ago. The scarred Martian surface and its diminished atmosphere may be the result of that disaster. NASA engineers have recently speculated about the possibility of terraforming Mars to restore a more hospitable atmosphere to the planet by releasing moisture trapped as permafrost across the planet's surface. The latest robotic venture to Mars was NASA's Mars Exploration Rover, which landed successfully in 2004. Unfortunately, after 6 years of service, the rover's survey came to a halt when its wheels became trapped in sand. Communication from the rover finally failed altogether in March of 2010. And yet planet Mars still offers curious anomalies that challenge our understanding. In 1976, NASA's Viking 1 orbiter, making a photographic survey of the Cydonia Mesa, captured a unique formation that has since been labeled the face on Mars. Is it just a random trick of light and shadow, or the remnant of a structure from some lost civilization that once flourished on the Martian surface? As well, strange translucent tubes have been captured in the NASA survey photographs. Are they some bizarre natural formations, or also tantalizing remains of intelligently engineered structures? In January 2008, the Mars rover photographed yet another strange artifact that strongly suggests the sculpture of a person in a sitting or kneeling position among the Martian rocks. It seems the more we learn about our companion planet, the more mysterious it becomes. These mysteries may finally be dispelled in the near future. In a major policy speech at Kennedy Space Center on April 15, 2010, President Barack Obama predicted a manned Mars mission to orbit the planet by the mid-2030s, followed by a landing.
By the mid-2030s, I believe we can send humans to orbit Mars and return them safely to Earth. And I expect to be around to see it.
The United States Congress has approved manned missions to the Moon, followed by asteroid exploration in 2025 and Mars in the 2030s. Imagine the high drama when American astronauts ultimately set foot on Mars for the first time in 2035. But will they actually be the first? Or will they be shocked to discover that Mars had already been home to humans from Earth for at least 70 years? In 2010 on Exopolitics Radio, hosted by Alfred Lambermont Weber, incredible revelations about planet Mars were disclosed. Mr. Andrew Basiago, a Cambridge-educated lawyer who practices law in Washington State, and Ms. Laura Eisenhower, the great-granddaughter of United States President Dwight D. Eisenhower, boldly revealed astounding claims that a secret Mars base, funded by black-budget military and intelligence sources, has been established as a survival colony in the event that solar flares, nuclear war, or some other catastrophe ends human life on Earth. On Exopolitics Radio, Laura Eisenhower exposed a covert intelligence operation in 2006 to infiltrate her personal life and recruit her for a secret Mars colony project. As well, Andrew Basiago revealed that twice in 1981 he was actually teleported from a CIA facility in California to a secret United States base on Mars. Mr. Basiago termed the cover-up of the Mars colony Mars Gate and called for a congressional investigation of the United States presence on Mars. Ms. Eisenhower stated that Alternative 3, the notion that trillions of dollars of resources are being spent to protect human life by placing it on Mars, should give way to Alternative 4, a new public awakening to achieve a sustainable civilization on Earth. Such claims sound like the wildest fiction, worthy of an Ian Fleming thriller novel or 007 movie. But closer examination of these revelations suggests a more disturbing plausibility. In June of 1977, a documentary edition of Science Report was aired on Anglia TV in Britain that examined Alternative 3, an investigation of rumors that scientists had determined that by the early years of the 21st century, the Earth's surface would be unable to support life due to pollution leading to catastrophic climate change. It was proposed that there were three alternatives to assure humanity's survival. Alternative 1. The first involved the detonation of nuclear bombs in the stratosphere in order to allow the pollution to escape into space. Alternative 2. The second alternative was the construction of elaborate underground bases. Alternative 3. The third alternative was to populate a survival colony on Mars. Shortly after this video was aired, it was debunked as a hoax, a clever dramatization parading as an investigative news report. However, this fiction was in part based on solid evidence that Alternatives 1, 2, and 3 were seriously proposed programs. Author, lecturer, researcher Milton William Cooper served as a member of the Office of Naval Security and Intelligence while on duty as a harbor and river patrol boat captain at Da Nang and the Dong Ha River Security Group in Vietnam. William Cooper was awarded several medals for his combat leadership and heroism. In his book, Behold a Pale Horse, Cooper reveals classified Defense Department files to which he had access during his service with naval intelligence. This briefing data confirmed the Alternative 3 scenario. A symposium was held in 1957 which was attended by some of the great scientific minds then living. They reached the conclusion that by or shortly after the year 2000, the planet would self-destruct due to increased population and man's exploitation of the environment. By secret executive order of President Eisenhower, MJ-12 scholars were ordered to study this scenario and make recommendations from their findings. MJ-12 confirmed the findings of the scientists and made three recommendations called Alternatives 1, 2, and 3. On May 22, 1962, a space probe landed on Mars and confirmed the existence of an environment which could support life. Not long afterward, the construction of a colony on the planet Mars began in earnest. Today, cities exist on Mars, populated by specifically selected people from different cultures and occupations taken from all over the earth. A public charade of antagonism between the Soviet Union and the United States has been maintained over all these years in order to fund projects in the name of national defense, when in fact we are the closest allies. Curiously, in 1957, the very same year, mentioned in Cooper's classified military files that referenced the Alternative 3 Symposium, a Walt Disney television program entitled Mars and Beyond publicly stated, "Today, as we face the serious problems of overpopulation and depletion of natural resources, the possibility of Mars becoming a new frontier is of increasing importance in our plans for the future." Is there any substance to this Alternative 3 urban legend? In 1961, shortly after the discovery of the Van Allen radiation belt that surrounds our planet, Hollywood released Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, a fantastic thriller where the Van Allen belt actually catches fire. To save the planet from roasting, an atomic missile is launched into the belt, extinguishing the blaze, a solution curiously reminiscent of Alternative 1. And today we see our skies laced with chemtrails, used for the alleged purpose of filtering solar radiation because of the depleted ozone layer. Could this be a modern variation of the Alternative 1 objectives? In May 1995, former Defense Department engineer, the late Phil Schneider, revealed, "The black budget is a secretive budget that garners 25% of the gross national product of the United States. The black budget currently consumes $1.25 trillion per year. At least this amount is used in black programs like those concerned with deep underground military bases. Presently, there are 129 deep underground military bases in the United States." Such testimony infers that Alternative 2 is substantial and serious. It's fairly well known that the Defense Department has been building underground facilities even since the days of the Cold War, when threat of nuclear exchange with the Soviet Union seemed a clear and present danger. Markings on the huge boring machines clearly reveal their military utility. According to the testimony of Mr. Basiago and Ms. Eisenhower, Alternative 3 has already progressed far beyond the theory stage, suggesting that fantastic advances in classified space transportation technologies have pushed this project into solid reality as well. Obviously, preserving our human genome is a worthy endeavor. Establishing colonies on Mars or other worlds in space as insurance against unforeseen Earth cataclysms or wars seems a humane, noble pursuit. But is such an admirable project convenient cover for darker ambitions? Does a breakaway military-industrial conglomerate entertain plans to occupy Mars and the rest of the solar system in a covert scheme to advance the territorial ambitions of a hidden totalitarian order? Is a secret fraternity of privileged elitists engaged in refashioning humanity into a species of their own invention? How ironic it would be to find we've launched the War of the Worlds scenario in reverse, with an aggressive army of human invaders from Earth descending upon the Martians. The increasing frequency of natural disasters is making human survival on planet Earth more tenuous. Each year we see more earthquakes, tsunamis, solar flares, severe storms, and volcanic eruptions. But are they man-made? In retrospect, it appears that Western civilization has been deliberately designed to self-destruct by the early years of the 21st century. The economic deterioration, runaway inflation, foreclosures, Wall Street instability, and loan company scandals all seem to be key to a predetermined schedule. As well, the degradation of the environment with massive oil spills, and more recently, the spreading radiation leaks due to the 2011 Japan earthquake, seem to serve a deliberate program of mass population reduction. The insatiable greed mentality of the corporate ruling elite sees the planet and all of its inhabitants as expendable commodities, to be used then discarded like so many styrofoam cups. The hit disaster film 2012 clearly portrays the mentality of the ruling elite, who have commissioned the building of gigantic arks to ride out the monstrous tidal waves that ravage the planet. Arks built exclusively for the safety of the corporate and political masters. Could it be that the missing $9 trillion that the Federal Reserve could not account for in 2009 were actually monies covertly financing space arks, built for the ruling elite to fly them safely to a sanctuary refuge on Mars? A bankster plan to get out of Dodge. Former director of Lockheed's top-secret Skunk Works facility at famed Area 51, Ben Rich, who was in charge of operations from 1975 to 1991, stated, "We now have the capability to travel to the stars. First, you have to understand that we will not get to the stars using chemical propulsion. The quantum secret is that all points in space and time are connected. In physics, a wormhole, an Einstein-Rosen bridge, is a hypothetical, topological feature of space-time that would be fundamentally a shortcut through space-time. Whistleblower testimonies confirm that secret defense projects have made practical application of wormhole portals." According to the testimony of Henry Deacon to Project Camelot, the technology of the military-industrial complex is currently dozens of years ahead of mainstream physics, which is published in journals in the public domain. There are projects dealing with subjects beyond the belief or experience, beyond the imagination of many public domain physicists. As well, Black Project insider Henry Deacon confirmed Andrew Basiago's claim that the military-industrial complex has mastered teleportation technologies with operational jump gates. Travel across large distances is best done using portals. Anything else is it's just inefficient. One of the portals connects to Mars, and it's a stable connection, no matter where Earth and Mars are in their orbits. We have a base there established in the early 60s. Actually, we have a number of bases. Transportation is by two means: stargates for personnel and small items, spacecraft for larger items of freight. The alternative fleet is codenamed Solar Warden. Existence of this alternative fleet was also verified by Project Camelot whistleblower Gary McKinnon. This British citizen and computer science genius, thought to have hacked into 53 United States government agencies' computer systems, said he was eventually able to hack into the United States Space Command network, where he found evidence of an extraterrestrial mission. "I found a list of officers' names," he claims, under the heading Non-Terrestrial Officers. "What I think it means is not Earth-based. I found a list of fleet-to-fleet transfers and a list of ship names. I looked them up. They weren't United States Navy ships. What I saw made me believe they have some kind of spaceship off-planet." Technologies to achieve such an audacious project have been in the works at least since the early 50s. Jealously guarded research and development operations involving captured alien spacecraft have advanced revolutionary quantum space flight propulsion systems, as well as techniques for altering space and time to form transportation portals. In 1981, President Ronald Reagan was briefed about ET technologies. Some information was evaluated with the idea of using the gained data to advance our own space technology and future space programs. The EBs can travel that great distance by means of space tunnels. They seem to be able to bend the distance from one point in space to another. Researcher Bob Dean states, "Richard Hoagland is convinced that Mars is covered with ruins." Well, it is, but it's not just ruins. There are things going on that planet, on the surface, under the surface, continually so. From his book UFO Contact from Reticulum, author Wendell Stevens also shared disturbing reference to a secret manned base on Mars. In 1978, William J. Herman, a born-again Christian living in Charleston, South Carolina, became a UFO experiencer. At the time, Herman was deacon of his Southern Baptist Conference Church. After several ongoing UFO contacts with gray aliens, Herman received an anonymous phone call warning him to keep silent about his UFO contacts. Mars can support life, human life. It's been proven. The moon once held colonies of scientists, and a probe landed on Mars on May 22, 1962. The Committee at Residence is a joint government and paramilitary technological conglomerate. The CIA is small fry compared to them. God, the KGB is small fry compared to them. They're watching you. Alternative 3. The Committee at Residence. The committee knows the UFOs know about everything. The violations, atrocities, batch consignments, everything. They've tried suppressing UFO data, but it can't be held down anymore. Too much pressure, too much at stake. When the atmosphere vaporizes its shields, all life will perish. Perish, do you hear? Richard Hoagland, former space advisor to Walter Cronkite and CBS television, confirmed our civilian space agency harbors a secret agenda. The NASA that we've known for 50 years has been a lie. The governmental institution known as NASA is a department of the executive branch, ultimately answerable solely to the President of the United States, an agency created through the National Aeronautics and Space Act of 1958. NASA ostensibly is a civilian agency exercising control over aeronautical and space activities sponsored by the United States. But contrary to common public and media perception that NASA is an open, strictly civilian scientific institution, is the legal fact that the space agency was quietly founded as a direct adjunct to the Department of Defense. This is directly contrary to everything we've been led to believe regarding NASA for over 50 years now. Integral to secret space-based defense strategy planning has been the establishment of bases on both the Moon and Mars. Once again, it is important to restate that the conjectures showcased in this essay are not offered as proof that our government institutions have in fact established operational bases on Mars. However, it may be significant to note that in 2001, the National Science Foundation and the Department of Commerce organized a workshop for major corporations and defense contractors to review the impending arrival of what Newt Gingrich called the Age of Transitions. Concepts discussed at this workshop were published in a report entitled Converging Technologies for Improving Human Performance, Nanotechnology, Biotechnology, Information Technology, and Cognitive Science. Visions laid out in this workshop included robotics, cybernetics, artificial intelligence, life extension, brain enhancement, virtual reality, genetic engineering, and even teleportation. One of the important issues that Andrew Basiago emphasized in his call for a Marsgate investigation was the practical advantage of teleportation technologies. Present forms of mechanical transportation are clumsy, antiquated, expensive, petroleum-dependent contraptions that foul the environment. Teleportation offers an economical, planet-friendly alternative that can replace such outdated technologies. So perhaps being whisked down a wormhole to another world is not such far-fetched fantasy as we might think. With 2012's science fiction adventure movie, John Carter, was Disney Corporation actually sharing a glimpse of what state-of-the-art space travel has become?